In part 2 of the video, we will study cell wall, cytoplasm and the nucleus. We can see an additional feature in all the plant cells, and that additional feature is the cell wall. Cell wall is no doubt present in plant cells, but cell wall is also present in fungi and prokaryotes like the bacteria. Cell wall is a rigid covering. Rigid यानी क्या? कठिन, न बुढ़ने वाला, कड़क. So this is the outer covering which is present in the plant cell, and this outer covering is called as the cell wall. It is a protective covering because there are many organelles which are present inside the cell. So what is the cell wall doing? The cell wall being rigid, it acts as a protective covering, thereby protecting the organelles which are present inside the cell. The cell wall is non-living. See, we had studied about plasma membrane in the first video. Plasma membrane was a living membrane, but cell wall is non-living. It is freely permeable. What is meant by permeable? Allowing entry and exit of certain materials. That was semi-permeable in plasma membrane. Now cell wall is freely permeable, meaning cell wall allows all sorts of substances to enter and leave the cell freely. So any substance can enter the cell, any substance can leave the cell because of free permeability of the cell wall. The cell wall is made up of cellulose and pectin. Both cellulose and pectin are types of carbohydrates. So cell wall is made up of cellulose and pectin. You will find that in some plant cells, polymers like suberin, cutin, lignin are added in the cell wall as per the need. Now what are polymers? Polymers are chemical compounds which contain many molecules in them. So all these substances, suberin, cutin, lignin, they are polymers. So you have many similar molecules which are attached in the form of a long chain, thereby forming a polymer. Now this suberin, cutin and lignin are present only in certain plant cells. Eventually, the function of all these three is to protect the plant from water. That is, these basically, all these substances, they prevent water from penetrating into the plant tissue. Otherwise, if water enters into the plant tissue, then what will happen to the plant? The plant will be dead. It will decay and it will be dead. For example, if you consider cutin. Cutin is a waxy substance which is present on the plant surfaces that makes the surface of the plant waterproof and protects the leaf from decaying. Similarly, in higher plants, there is a waxy covering which is present over the epidermal surface of the leaf, which is called as a cuticle. In desert plants, there is a substance called as suberin, which is also a wax-like fatty substance, which occurs in the form of cork cell. You can see this suberin is a hard, thick covering which is present on the bark of the tree. Here, this is the bark of the tree. So this suberin is present, this particular kind of polymer is present over the tree in the form of cork cell. So basically, what is the function of cuticle, cutin and suberin? To prevent the water from entering into the plant tissue and thereby protecting the plant from getting decayed. Functions of cell wall. Cell wall, being the outer covering, provides shape to the cell. It provides mechanical strength to the different parts of it provides mechanical strength to the plants. It protects the cell from any kind of pathogens, that is disease causing microorganisms, from entering into the cell, and it also protects the plant from mechanical injury. Growth of cell wall means growth of the cell. So what are the functions of cell wall? It provides shape to the cell, you can add, it gives protection to the inner parts of the cell. It provides mechanical strength to the plant. It prevents the entry of pathogens into the cell and also protects the plant from any kind of mechanical injury. Growth of cell wall means the growth of the cell. The next important feature of any cell is the cytoplasm. Cytoplasm is the fluid content which lies between the plasma membrane and the nucleus. So this is the nucleus, this blue part is the nucleus of the cell, and this outer protective covering is the plasma membrane. So cytoplasm is present in the entire region between the nucleus and the plasma membrane of the cell. It is a living cytoplasm. It is constantly moving because of its semi-fluid nature. It is a jelly-like substance. That means it is not completely solid nor completely liquid. So because of its jelly-like nature, it continuously keeps on moving in between the nucleus and the plasma membrane. There are many organelles which are scattered inside the cytoplasm or which lies in the cytoplasm. Many chemical reactions take place inside the cytoplasm, and there is a region in the cytoplasm which does not contain any organelles. That is the empty space where the organelles are not present in the cytoplasm. That particular region is called as the cytosol. The cytoplasm stores vital substances like the amino acids, which are a form of proteins, the glucose, the vitamins, etc. The next important feature of any cell is the nucleus. The nucleus is called as the brain of the cell. You will find that the nucleus is a large spherical body. Here this entire structure that you can see on the screen is a nucleus. It's a large spherical body. Normally it lies at the center of the cell. But when the cell becomes mature, the nucleus shifts towards the periphery, that is towards the corner. The nucleus, being the brain of the cell, controls all the activities of the cell. It also plays an important role in cell division. That is, one cell divides to form two cells divides to form 4, and so on. You will find that the nucleus, being a very important part of the cell, is made up of double membrane. So we'll see about the structure of the nucleus in the next slide. So nucleus is covered by a double layered nuclear membrane. Cells cannot survive without the nucleus. Okay. If the cell contains one nucleus, then the cells are called as uninucleated cells. But if the cells contain more than one nucleus, then the cells are said to be multinucleated. Let us see the structure of the nucleus. So this structure, this spherical structure, is the nucleus. Okay. Outside the nucleus, here you can see these tubular structures. These are the endoplasmic reticulum, which are present in the cytoplasm of the cell. That means outside the nucleus lies the fluid part of the cell, which is called as the cytoplasm. Okay. So here you can see that the nucleus is a covering. The nucleus has a covering which is made up of two membranes or double membrane. Okay. So this covering of the nucleus, which is double layered, is called as the nuclear envelope. We call it as a nuclear envelope, or we also call it as the nuclear membrane. It is a membrane. Membrane यानी क्या? Covering. The membrane is double in layer, so it's a double membrane. It separates the nucleus from the cytoplasm of the cell. You can see that the nuclear membrane is not continuous. यहाँ पे बीच में छोटे openings है, gaps है. So these openings or these pores which are present in the nuclear membrane, those pores are called as the nuclear pores. So because of these nuclear pores or because of these openings which are present in the nuclear membrane, exchange of materials is possible. कहाँ से कहाँ तक मटेरियल जा सकता है? The material can be exchanged from the cytoplasm, from the nucleus into the cytoplasm. Okay. So, and from the cytoplasm into the nucleus. So, exchange of materials between nucleus and cytoplasm can take place. There is a colorless and a dense fluid which is present inside the nucleus. This dense fluid which is present inside the nucleus is called as the nucleoplasm. inside the nucleoplasm, or you can say inside the nucleus, you will find many thread-like structures. Can you see these thread-like structures? These thread-like structures are called as the chromatin fibers. Okay, you will also find a body suspended inside the nucleus, and this body is called as the nucleolus. So nucleolus is a round structure which is found inside the nucleus. This nucleolus contains RNA and proteins, and it is in this nucleus that ribosome formation takes place, and ribosome in turn helps in the formation of proteins. It is not necessary that the nucleus may contain just one nucleolus. At times the nucleus may also contain 2 or 3 or 4 nucleolus. So nucleolus may be 1 in number or more in number. This is how the chromatin material appears inside the nucleus, as entangled mass of thread-like structures. But when the cell is about to divide, then the chromatin material gets organized into these rod-shaped structures which are called as the chromosomes. The chromosomes, this is how the chromosomes are drawn. When we draw the diagram, we draw the chromosome diagram like this. Now the chromosomes are composed of helical structure called as the DNA and proteins. Now what is this DNA? You can see the strands which are present in the chromatin fibers. This constitutes the DNA. Now if we look at one particular strand of DNA, this is how the helical structure of DNA looks like. So this is what the DNA looks like. Okay. Now the DNA is responsible for synthesizing a specific protein. For example, if I consider a particular segment or a particular length of DNA. For example, if I say that I consider the length of DNA from here up to here. Okay. So maybe this length of DNA is called as a gene. A gene is responsible for synthesizing a specific protein, and each protein will give rise to a particular trait in an individual. Maybe suppose this gene is responsible for giving color to the skin. So the protein which will give color to the skin will be the gene which will be produced by this particular segment of DNA or the length of DNA. Maybe like for example, now let us consider this particular length of the gene. If this particular length of DNA, if we consider this length of DNA, this will be called as another gene. This gene number 2 will produce some new specialized proteins, and those proteins will be responsible for giving or assigning another trait to the human body, maybe color of the hair. Okay, so basically these DNA molecules which are present inside the chromosomes, they are responsible for transmitting hereditary characters from one generation to another generation. Let us study the role of nucleus in the cell. That is, the functions of the nucleus in the cell. Nucleus controls all the metabolic activities of the cell. Now, metabolism is a term that is used to describe all chemical reactions that take place in our body and help in maintaining the living state of the cells and also the state of the organisms. So basically all chemical reactions taking part in the body is controlled by the nucleus. So nucleus controls all metabolic activities of the cell as well. It controls cell division. The nucleus is responsible for transmission of hereditary characters from parents to the offsprings. Characters means traits. Traits, certain features, certain characters, certain traits are passed from one generation to another generation. That is from parents to the offspring. So let us study this with the help of the flashcard. Here you can see that there is a father, there is a mother, and there is a son. The father has got a big nose, but the mother has got a small nose. The feature of this nose, big nose, is being passed from the parent to the child. So see, you can see the child has inherited a big nose from the father. So which trait is passed from the parent to the offspring? the trait of having a big nose has been passed from the parent to the offspring. Similarly, you can see that the father has got normal eyebrows, but the mother has got bushy eyebrows, isn't it? So the child has inherited bushy eyebrows from the mother. But you can see the color of the eyebrows also. That is also very important. The color of the eyebrows is black, which is inherited from the father. But the bushy nature of the eyebrows is inherited by the son from the mother. So traits or characters, each and every trait that a child acquires is from either of the parent. Similarly, you can see in this particular flashcard, you can see a mother, a father and a son. So you can see that the son has inherited the color of the hair from the father. You look at the blonde color of the hair that the mother has, but see the color of the hair that the father has. The child has inherited this character of hair color from the father. Look at the eye color. The mother has got black eyes. The father has got blue eyes. Child has inherited black color eyes from the mother. Similarly, the mother has got dimples, so the child has inherited this character from the mother. Skin color of the child and skin color of the mother is same. That means the child has inherited this character of skin color from the mother. Broad lips. The child is having broad lips, but the mother has got normal thin lips. So the inheritance of this character of broad lips is acquired from the father by the son. So hereditary means something that is passed from one generation to another generation. So it is the nucleus which helps in transmission of hereditary characters from the parents to the offsprings. Is it exactly directly the nucleus? No, the nucleus contains chromatin fibers. The chromatin fibers arrange themselves during cell division. They transform themselves into condensed chromosomes. The chromosomes contain DNA, and these DNA, they are responsible for transmitting the hereditary characters from parents to the offspring. So indirectly the DNA is present inside the nucleus, and therefore we are saying that the nucleus is involved in transmission of hereditary characters from parents to offspring.